This is Saturday, June 5th. My goodness, we're almost all the way halfway through the year. Um, this is our regularly scheduled Ancient Future Wisdom that's normally on Friday at noon, but that wasn't possible yesterday. So we are here today. And this has been a very, very full week, and we are preparing for another, not only full week of energetics, powerful energetics, cosmically. We have the solar eclipse coming up, although here on the East Coast, we will actually only be able to barely see a little sliver. In other words, a partial eclipse. You would have to be in the northern Canadian region and even further north to see the full moon. The full solar eclipse. But nevertheless, the energetics are still very, very powerful and have a global reach as well, emphasized by the alignment of stars right now, those that are coming forward to assist us. Saturn, stars and planets, Saturn being one of the significant ones. So there's always very, very powerful assistance from the cosmos as well as the earth. We have quite a few different beings from the earth and aspects of the earth coming forward to guide and lead and teach and show us what is most pertinent within our own systems, as well as our culture, wherever you may find yourself, globally, and very, very particularly individually through your own family. So we also have a combination of energetics that is thinning the veil. Now, the veil has been getting thin for many, many years and almost daily. Now, what do I mean by the veil? That means the very, very, at this point, narrow border between this reality and other realities. And what that means is that we have accessibility to our own resources, meaning that it's much, much easier at this point in time to communicate and connect with your guides, teachers, masters. How many of you are experiencing that right now? Or as well, we have a lot of what can be termed not so pleasant energies coming through, which can be very, very uncomfortable initially, but in the long run are here for the transmutation and evolution. Transmutation of us individually and evolution of this planet overall, particularly the human species, and how it relates to the rest of the planet. Just checking my notes. I wanted to let you know that here on the East Coast, the solar eclipse is going to be, the partial solar eclipse is going to be visible at sunrise and then just a little bit after sunrise. I believe that is on the 10th, which is Thursday. The sun rises at 5:45 in the morning, so it'd be a really good idea if you want to be able to bathe in this physically as well as energetically to step outside around 5:30 and start to see the sky. Hopefully it will not be cloudy in your area. And there is going to be, even if you can't see the eclipse itself, there is a change in the color, a deepening in the blue color of the sky. Or you might notice that the landscape has a very odd silvery hue. It is because of the angle of the sun and the moon, of course. And this is a ring of fire solar eclipse, meaning that the moon, which normally covers over the sun for a complete eclipse, in this case, the sun, the position, the angle of the moon in front of the sun will not cover it, will not occult it completely. So you will be able to see, or those that are seeing the complete solar eclipse will see the edges of the sun not covered completely by the moon. So it's going to look like a ring of fire. There is plenty of information on the internet. I align with a couple of different websites. I'll try to place those later, but one is sky.com and the other is space.com. And these are coming from scientists. So it's strictly astronomical information, and if you'd like further information, I invite you to explore any of the astrological sites that pop up when you put in Ring of Fire. Again, I don't really have a specific site that our go-to site for astrology that I would recommend. I do, however, and have complete faith and respect and admiration for a particular astrologer who I've been using for, I don't know, 12 years at least, maybe longer at this point. His name is Stephen Barrett, S-T-E-P-H-E-N. I'm sorry, Barry, B-A-R-R-Y. You can find him here on Facebook. I will place a link to his Facebook page on Healer's Universe page. And his information is always extremely intuitive. He's been doing this for many, many years. I would recommend giving yourself the gift of a reading with him for your birthday, for holidays. He is exceptional. And that's the source that I go to. The other thing that has been coming up is family this week. Certainly for me, the 29th was my father's birthday. He would have been 103. He passed at 96. And he was also a very decorated war veteran, so Memorial Day was special for me in two ways, and very, very powerfully, with the sense that, you know, let me back up. As a veteran, he was cremated and placed in a beautiful veterans memorial wall in Houston, Texas. And this week, incidentally, my favorite aunt passed as well, which I'm going to talk about that experience of her passing in just a minute. But because her husband was a veteran, she too is going to be buried. Her ashes are going to be buried at the memorial cemetery in St. Louis, next to her husband, the veteran, my grandfather, a veteran also, and my grandmother along with him. Spouses are able to be buried next to their veteran spouses. And they're very, very interesting places to visit because of the powerful significance of those cemeteries, of course. And they're usually tended and overseen by military, so they are there's a lot of honoring going on all the time. I was very, very struck by my aunt's very powerful passing. She too lived a very, very long and beautiful life. She was 95, and there will doubtlessly be hundreds honoring her for her life. She was an example of a truly loving and accepting being, and brought joy to everyone she encountered. But what I'd like to share is her experience in the process of crossing over. It was in some ways rather sudden, but because there was going to be a movement from the facility, the rehabilitation facility she was in, to a hospice state, all her children happened to be there, except one who lives very far away. She had 7, and their wives, and they were around her both the night before and the very moment she passed, as a matter of fact. This was a moment of great faith and very, very much connected to, whether she acknowledged it fully or not, very connected to her ancestral roots of deep intuition and, excuse me, the Irish ability of seeing through the veil. As she was passing the night before, her children, the couple that stayed with her, heard her call out the names of many of the people who were in her family that had already passed. She was really in and out of consciousness, and of course she called out my mother's name, her sister who passed, her other sister Betty, many different names, like out of the blue she would call out. There was a knowing from my cousins, who also carry this strong intuition, that she was actually encountering these people, encountering their energy, encountering their souls, just beyond our edge of consciousness. Now, I have for many, many years done work with crossing over both people, land, animals, concepts, and events that are held in the land and held in our bodies. I've been trained in many different types of crossover practices, and there is a process of conscious and caring crossing over. And that's one of the things that have been so difficult throughout this past year of COVID, that so many hundreds of thousands of people in our country alone were not able to be with their family members, which creates a strong link and a bridge, oftentimes, for the soul to cross over. It has been heart-wrenching and heartbreaking for all of those medical personnel who happened to be there at the last moments, attempting to fill in for their family members. Death is a very interesting and, yes, very private affair for both the, particularly for the soul crossing over. However, because we are linked to one another so deeply, and to this planet and to everything on it, there is a communal effect. In other words, when people cross over, we can feel that. There are innumerable stories of people knowing when a relative is passing over. Have even had encounters with that relative coming to them in an energy form, or have even actually seen their form or heard their voice. And we know of this. Many of us have actually experienced this, yet we discount it. We do not deepen into it. We think of it as an odd occurrence and go on about our lives, when in fact these are doors. They're doorways to allow us to continue communication, of course, and connection with the person that passed, but more so as doorways to pursue and explore and open wider our own abilities to connect and communicate with others, be they family members who have crossed, ancestors in our lineage, masters that have lived on this planet and have moved on, Jesus, Buddha, Einstein. You can access and communicate with any of those people that have passed on, because their energy, part of their energy, is still here embedded in the land, and therefore still part of our continued experience here, our continuous reality. So we have these huge cosmic events and alignments and offerings of energy to widen our experience, to allow us to realize that we are not alone. We are not alone individually, ever, and we are not alone collectively on this planet as the only human species. We are not alone as species that have sentience and are participating consciously, choicefully in this project called Earth. We are not alone as far as guides and teachers and masters that perhaps have never been in human form, but are again linked to this Earth project for their own edification and to assist us. At any given time, one or the other may step forward for offering their expertise. We are absolutely not alone as physical forms, even humanoid forms, in this galaxy, much less the universe. And I think that is one of my deepest passions in working with people, in the classes that I give, in teachings, in trainings, is to not just know this, because I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and you can know from books, from trainings, from workshops, etc., that this is true. But until and unless you have a deep physical experience, such as those I mentioned earlier, of a loved one coming and spending time with, or speaking to, or giving signs here and there, it is very, very difficult to hold that. And when you take those experiences and deepen them and practice more and more that ability to feel, not just see, because oftentimes people want to see things, they want to run things through their mind faculties as far as being able to know things. And in reality, it is the knowing inside, in our physical bodies and in our energetic bodies, that will enable us to live on a daily basis, accessing the information, the communication, the help. And this help and this guidance and these reminders of who we are, why we chose to be here at this time, how we can explore and come to know ourselves as humans on a psycho-emotional basis, on a physio-energetic basis, on a spiritual basis, because we are all that and more. And when we tend to go about our days just relying on our physical, mental faculties, our will, our push, it tends to make us feel very alone. And yet it's the most difficult thing that we can do, to go down and in our internal world and explore and transform, and potentially with the assistance of someone else transmute, because that's very deep we're talking about, those aspects which impede or in some way make us believe that we are less than these wide, magnificent, complex, sophisticated, interconnected, interdependent soul beings here having a human experience. And that healing or that transformation must necessitate, not only in the process of healing our particular issues, we have the opportunity to transform family issues, lineage issues, ancestral issues, if you like to call them, and as well cultural issues, because they are all connected. Where you are, what your lineage is culturally has a great effect. It influences, it colors not only how you were raised, but the things that you heard, the beliefs, etc. Which brings us to another very powerful event this week, which was an acknowledgement for the first time by any certainly by any significant governmental personage, but in our history, we have ignored many, many things that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to know, that we don't want to feel, that we don't want to remember. That's true personally, and it is true culturally as well. This week, the president acknowledged and really brought into the foreground the event that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, many, many years ago. Forgive me, I don't remember the date. You can look it up. But that it was truly, in his words, this is the first person that has actually acknowledged it as a massacre. This was a very large African American community in Tulsa, flourishing with a lot of professionals, a lot of businesses, a thriving community, which some felt very threatened by. And on a horrific night, I believe it could have actually, this is the 100th anniversary, I do believe, but don't quote me. Hundreds of people were killed, homes were burned, businesses were destroyed and burned. And we have not acknowledged this. We have not wanted to feel this. And this is where good guilt comes in. We must feel the experience as a teaching point, not something to dwell in and utilize to beat ourselves up and stay in that mode, which only leads to either depression of that, suppression, or a level of grief in which one can stay, wallow, keep looping around in. But an article I read, a beautiful article, again, I'll try to find the source and post it, was about good guilt, meaning that it does lead us to explore and find out the reasons why something occurs, whether it's in our own personal life or culturally or even globally, and how we can avoid doing so in future. This is always true when a loved one passes. There are members of the family or our own experience of guilt. I should have done more. I should have called more. I should have. And now it's too late. And again, while that in the moment is an opportunity to really do some assessing, some weighing of what is actually true and what your system is causing you to feel based on old patterning. And it can compel us to really live in the moment, to not wait to say something or resolve a difference or another opportunity to simply accept that person, even if we do not align with their way or their perspective or their beliefs. A beautiful, beautiful movie that popped on last night. I've seen it before and have recommended it, but it is absolutely perfect for this subject matter right now at hand and for Pride Month. It's called Stage Mother, and it is a magnificent story of relationship, of healing, of missed opportunities, of personal growth of a community. And I say watch it now. It's on, if you have Fios, I know that it's on the Stars channels. I don't know where else it's available, but I highly, highly encourage you to rent it, to find it, and watch it. And it's a beautiful way of utilizing good guilt, or taking that guilt and making it into something good and healing. And we have another, aspect of that when we're talking about globally. There has been such great loss of animals, of land mass, or land, ancestral lands, land in general. And this is part of our family. This is part of our experience. This is part of our bodies. It is part of our energy fields. Scientists finally were able to really kind of go in and gather together and see and talk about and bring information about the devastation in Australia. It literally brought many of those scientists to tears. We have the death of one of the last two remaining white rhinoceroses on the planet, meaning that unless some exceptional scientific means of impregnating the one female rhino, white rhino left on the planet, and her having a successful birth, they will no longer exist. Giant white rhinos are virtually extinct as of my speaking. And while many could say, oh, there's plenty of other types of rhinos, we don't, it's not going to affect us deeply, but it does. When we lose a family member, with all of those that we have lost through COVID, with all of the millions and millions and millions we have lost through wars, this is here as a teaching for us to choose whether we want those destructive, devastating forms of deathing to continue. And each of us have an opportunity in our very own lives, our very own processes, that will change that. You don't have to go out and be an activist or do things out in the world unless you're called to. It is in your deep inner work that the actual physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic experience of this species changes. I cannot emphasize enough how significant, how important, how much you matter. What you do, what you say, but more how you feel in relationship to yourself, which allows you to feel in relationship to others, to the planet, to the many, many beings involved in this project, and most of all, to the divine, however you see it, however you word it. For me, and the basis of what I teach, the divine is in everything. Every blade of grass, every flower, every cloud, every insect, every microbe, everything is part of this divine energy or universal intelligence or spirit or whatever you wish to call it. Physics is daily finding more evidence of this connectiveness, and that our consciousness is what creates and designs and reconfigures this universe. A quote from Cryon came across my desk this week. What you do for yourself is often grander than you think, and not just for you. Remember, consciousness has a very large, multidimensional footprint. And with that, I invite you to really allow yourself to sit deeply in this container. I'm going to light this candle as a physical starting point or reminder or symbol of this particular container at this particular moment in time. Whether you're listening here with me live, whether you're listening at any point in the future. That's how vast and complex and intricately interconnected energetics are. The future, what appears future to us in this very linear reality, is in fact merely a wider stretch of the universal wide web or world wide web. Yes, that is the term used for the internet. But we each are part of, with many strands connected to us, of this massive world wide web. And when someone, a person, leaves under traumatic or painful or destructive purposes, it affects all of us. We can no longer close our eyes, shut down our energy fields, cease to feel what is occurring on the other side of the planet. I'm inviting into this container as well all of those who not only may hear and feel this particular container of energetics, but all of those aspects that I've mentioned that have come forth. And I invite you to invite your ancestors, your family members and friends that have passed over, your guides, your teachers, your masters, all of those who surround you, walk with you, walk before you, walk beside you. Walk in your wake every single day, every single moment. Allow yourself to sink out of your mind, out of your third eye, out of the energy of your frontal lobe, and sink down and within. For there you will feel those that you have called upon, those that you have named, those that you have brought to consciousness, those that have stepped forward culturally, globally, galactically. This particular week. Honoring those that have passed through the horrors of war, through the horrors of the massacre in Tulsa, through the horrors of poaching, of overfishing, of carelessness for profit, such as the ship full of chemicals that caught fire and is sinking off the coast of Sri Lanka. All this is part of our conscious experience. Awakening, being aware, becoming conscious allows for the changes, the choices, the modification of our behavior. The transformation of our thoughts and beliefs. The transmutation of those aspects of human nature which no longer fit within an evolved way of being. Allow, instead of dropping into a place of guardedness and shielding, allow yourself to feel good grief. The good grief that is cleansing, the good grief that is that allows for the connected feeling, or the feeling of connectedness between and among everything on, in, and around this project Earth. The good grief that acknowledges life force and life in everything, and as such something to be valued and honored and protected and preserved. Allow the good guilt to lead you into more moment-to-moment living, acknowledging the preciousness of each moment, each encounter. Allow that good guilt to cause you to open a conversation that is long overdue. Resolving any conflicts that prevent that connection with family members, friends. Allow that good grief to lead you to see and perceive the other, to walk in that person's shoes or put yourself in that person's shoes. Those that have been massacred. Here in our own country, for us to heal our history and become greater in unity. With all the diversity. That we not allow divisiveness within ourselves and our own parts, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, or energetic. So that there may not be divisiveness on the basis of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, economic status. That good guilt cause us to see that everything we do, think, say, can and does affect, touch nature, animals, the land, the elements, the climate, the weather. That is how connected and powerful each one is. Why you chose to be here at this amazing and crucial time in this Project Earth. Allow yourself to feel your internal world, your inner verse, where you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are part of it all. Enabling you to feel, receive, take in, experience in a felt sense. The accompaniment, the offering, the gifts, accessible when we allow our innate wisdom to lead, rather than merely the rational mind. For it is in and through that innate wisdom, our deep intuition, that we are able to walk every day with immediate answers, immediate responses from guides, teachers, masters, ancestors, loved ones. In this great cooperative, collaborative project. I'm going to sink another level deeper. Nothing you need do, no work, no effort. Simply allow your energy field, your wider self, which is your soul self, to lead you. For they know exactly what to do. It is inherent within you. All you need to do is allow, sensate, feel, experience what is going on inside. Perhaps the sensation of your body being, the boundaries of your body being less rigid and firm. Perhaps you feel sleepy and just want to let go into what feels like a little nap. Perhaps you are aware of both the physical and non-physical aspects of you, of your surroundings. The energetics are very powerful to try to assist and guide you and lead you into your next step. On this profound human journey. Going to be silent for a moment or two so you can deepen and bathe in your experience. Simply allow, simply trust your own body, your own energy field, your own wide self. To bring you the exact right combination of energetics vibrations, frequencies. To show you, teach you, guide you, and remind you who you truly are and why you came. And as these energetics are assimilated and incorporated into your body, the energy field once again, allowing, no doing, simply allowing your energy field, your wider self, to lead you guide you from what has been perhaps a less physical experience back to a more physical experience of this reality. For each of you have your own way of returning. And your energy field and your wider self know the pace, the process, the form, and in this process of moving from a less physical experience to a more physical experience, on that edge, that's the veil, back and forth. And in between, there is the potential for symbols, sound, shapes, all kinds of means by which you may receive information, not solely in your mind, or hearing, or visioning. Allow it to pop in as it will spontaneously, either in this organic process of rephysicalizing or over the next 24 or 48 hours. Be open to lines of communication that perhaps you haven't as yet. I would love to hear in the comments, or please private message me to let me know of your experience, or certainly if you have any questions or any little unsmoothness, let's put it that way, so that I may assist you. And look for, if not a short training this week, I expect to be here next Friday, although timing may be a little bit challenging. I will, closer to the date, post what time. I'm still shooting for noon on Friday, but because of a particular circumstance, I'm not sure that that will be, so I will post ahead of time. And in the meantime, enjoy the beauty that surrounds you in any and every way. And as always, it is with deep honor, deep gratitude, and deep love for your presence on the planet that I leave you until next time. Bye-bye.